This is the MLW Radio Network.
Welcome, everybody, to the Mind of the Meanie, your weekly peek into the world according to former WWE superstar and ECW original, the Blue Meanie. We'll cover wrestling, music, movies, sports, and lots of useless knowledge, all contained in the Mind of the Meanie. I am your tour guide, Josh Shernoff, and he is the Blue Meanie. Meanie, what's on your mind?
I am very excited because today, this Monday morning, this episode 69.
It's funny because it's right before 70, or am I not?
Yeah.
Or am I not getting it?
Yeah,
No, I'm definitely
or
not.
71, which is 69 with two fingers in your ass.
I was gonna say I'm married with 3 kids. I'm not getting it.
To quote the late great George Carlin, who I get all my material from. So, but yeah, man, very excited. This is a very special all Ask Meanie Anything.
Yeah.
You're a little bit of a busy beaver. Little disclaimer: we recorded this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, about a week and a half. About a week and a half ago, on the 7th, July 7th, we recorded this because, yes, I am all over the place. Physically, mentally, I'm all over the place. So Meanie was kind enough to allow us to call an audible here and do a full episode of Ask Meanie Anything. So yeah, again, July 7th, hopefully nothing too crazy has happened. But I feel like
this will be like the Howard Stern curse. Like every time he would go on vacation, like some monumental thing that he should be talking about happens while he's not on the air. So hopefully we didn't miss too much.
Yeah. I hope so. So Pod Squad that's watching us live, our Patreon Pod Squad over at patreon.com/mindofthemeanie. If you have questions, start throwing them at us right now. We're going to dig into our, into whatever we have left over from previous weeks. And we have some fun ones, some fun conversation here. So who even knows how long this episode's going to go? I guess that was really up to all of you when we asked you if you had any questions. So we could be 5 minutes here or 5 hours. So let's find out. Meanie, are you ready?
I would love to. It's time to ask me anything. Ask me something.
All right. First one, we're going to kick off right here with Mark and Dryden at Mark Matsuo.
What up?
What are your guys? Oh, by the way, hope you had a great birthday.
Yeah. Hopefully your birthday was a great one.
What are your guys' thoughts on Bischoff and Pritchard saying ECW was a feeder system for WWE and WCW? Meanie, what do you think about that?
It was an unofficial feeder system for WWE, to be honest. But, like, you know, ECW started when the wrestling business was down, you know. It was kind of like the counterculture to the things that were happening at the time with cartoony storylines, cartoony characters, and all that stuff. And, you know, they were the victim of, you know, people not seeing them nationwide.
Right.
You know, all these folks could watch, you know, all these people in WWE and ECW. I mean, WCW could watch ECW and borrow ECW's best stuff and do it on national TV. So if ECW does it, you know, somebody goes back and watches ECW, people are like, oh, ECW stole from WWE, which, you know, totally wasn't the case. And ECW was also the victim of the fact that, you know, the Monday Night Wars blew up when they did. imagine imagine the Monday Night Wars hadn't blown up when they did. ECW could have easily been one of the top promotions,
Right.
They were the counterculture. They were the more believable, they did, grittier storylines, stuff like that. So I don't know if you could say they were kind of a feeder system for WWE, because WWE would send us guys, or send ECW guys, had nothing for, but kept them on the payroll and kept the ring rust off, or came up with ideas like, Al Snow coming up with the head and then bringing it back to WWE. And then, WCW just blatantly, took stuff from ECW, and along with, the whole mole story and stuff like that, whether it's true or not, Todd denies it, but, Terry Taylor said it really happened. So, and Paul and Tommy said it happened, but, I'll give Todd, there's no ECW without Todd Gordon,
Sure.
And I'll give Todd Gordon all the credit in the world. He put up his own personal wealth in this whole thing. He put his balls on the table for ECW, where, Bischoff could, and look, I like Eric Bischoff, but he always downplays ECW and ECW's worth. But
watch what you say about him. All right. That is the best friend of
James
Sorensen. Okay.
The Sorensen level.
Level. Patreon.
I said I like Bischoff. I like Bischoff, but he had billionaire money to play with. Todd Gordon, and then eventually, I've heard the figures of what Paul Heyman put his own personal wealth into, ECW, in the millions of dollars, of his money, his family's, his parents' money, stuff like that. So when you go and say ECW was this, that, and the other thing, hey, they played, with their own money. They believe, they bet on themselves. ECW bet on itself, between Todd and Paul, and stuff like that. So the poke fun and say it was the feeder system, the bottom, it was the third rate, whatever. People are still talking about it. People are still chanting ECW. Nobody's chanting WCW. Nobody's chanting WWE. They might chant NXT, but that's because NXT is kind of like the closest thing that reminds me of ECW in a way, and that's probably what they're doing with NXT is what they should have done with WWE ECW, kind of in a way. Just keep it
very focused on wrestling. Very
focused on wrestling in a smaller arena, kind of like what they do at Full Sail, which had an ECW arena feel to it, just a little bit more glamorized with better lighting and camera work. ECW, we had Ron and Charlie, and that was it. And, and one of the best voices in wrestling history, Joey Styles, with Paulie behind him and stuff like that, producing and stuff like that. And a lot of people go, oh, Joey Styles is good because Paul told him what to say, which is bullshit. Joey would pretty much say whatever he wanted. And then, Paul wanted to fine tune something. Hey, how about this? Everybody had to say in ECW, even I had to say in ECW. We were doing the BWO t-shirt commercial, and we're at the studio in Ron and Charlie. I want to say it was Ron's parents' house. And we're sitting there at the controller, and Ron Buffone was just showing me different things on his board, his editing board. It's like, I got this one graphic I've been wanting to use forever. It's just a graphic that goes, it's the words wow with the Batman, when Batman, when they throw there's
like the pow, bam. Yeah.
Ron had this thing on his board. It just went, wow. So we're going to do this thing for ECW t-shirts, and Stevie does this whole buy 1 million t-shirts, get one free. I was like, dude, that would be the perfect time to use that logo you've been wanting to use this whole time. And if you watch it, Stevie's doing the math on this Tropicana orange juice calculator that they happen to have in the studio. And he goes, buy 1 million t-shirts, get one. free. And the graphic comes up. Wow. And all the voices in that room were the voices in the room were me, Nova, Stevie, Ron, Charlie, Tommy Dreamer, and Paul Heyman, all going, wow. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, everybody had a say in ECW. Paul listened. Getting back to it, Paul put up his own fucking money. Todd put up his own fucking money. I love Bruce to death. I love Eric Bischoff. I'm not slamming them, but they're dead wrong when they say, when they mock ECW for being, the little, this pissant promotion, because it wasn't.
A couple of questions here from Josh at So Says Shernoff. Because from what you were saying there, I had one question I want to ask you, then another one popped in my mind. So I'll start with the second one first. Do you think, thinking it through as much as you can with like 1 second's notice, do you think that when they launched NXT, and we're thinking back, I guess that was, let's say like when the network first started, right?
Right, roughly. It was the first lot of the network.
If that had they said instead, okay, we're going to do this whole thing, we're going to do it, and you know what? We're calling it ECW. We're putting, we'll bring back some of the originals, do whatever, but we have the same vision. So it's the same vision, the same execution as NXT, but they bring it back as ECW. Do you think that would have worked?
Could have. Because it just seems like, we say this all the time. When somebody goes from NXT to the main roster, from NXT to WWE, there seems to be this disconnect. It seems like, Triple H, sorry. Triple H and Shawn Michaels have free reign over there with the NXT brand. They're really not bothered.
With the exception of when they fire people. From the roster, which has got to piss them
beyond
off.
Control. Yeah. But then again, Samoa Joe got fired from WWE and Triple H said, let me have him.
Yep.
And he comes back to NXT,
which is great.
Yeah.
So,
but they definitely could have gotten away with that. And like I said, I kind of wish they did that. I wish there was a way where they could have kept it separate. I know you want to save money and record it before Raw and air it, a couple days later, but just find a location, have her record it in a smaller place where people are more packed in and have more, chance to react. People react more. People are more likely to react when they're packed in together and elbow to elbow, and one person reacts and it's a train reaction, as opposed to a few people in a big arena and nobody wants to pop right away because they don't want people staring at them going, look at this guy popping over here.
That's a good point.
People are always going to react. They're more likely to react when they're in a smaller space, packed on top of each other, and one reaction sets off a chain reaction amongst the fans.
Now, this wasn't my other question, but do you think that, because people could argue, well, ECW, NXT was because it was its own separate thing, whatever. Do you think that, that's kind of a stupid question. You kind of already answered it. I was going to ask if you think that ECW would have, when they brought it back in 2006, right? 2006 when they brought it back.
Something like that.
Do you think if they would have stuck to, we're going to book the venues where ECW was, or we're going to find our proverbial Full Sail, and they kept it small the whole time like that, and they didn't do it in the arenas, as you're saying, obviously it saves money and all that. Do you think that ECW could have succeeded in 2006 in the smaller venues with the same type of booking? How much of it do you think was the feel, and how much of it, like the visual, and how much of it was the booking? And do you think it could have soldiered on?
Well, I say this, ECW, had it survived, would have became more like Ring of Honor. they were kind of going away from the blood and guts type stuff, and they were pretty much staying with the in-ring action and stuff like that with some talent they had coming in, like Kid Cash and all that. So, and also, one of the main bookers from Ring of Honor was Gabe Sapolsky.
Yeah.
And he worked in ECW, he worked in the office. Paul could have, handed him some of the booking reins and stuff like that. So if, say, ECW, I think there was going to be a shift in ECW. Had it survived, they bring it back in 2006. They could have continued on with that vision and kept it more sports oriented, like, WWE. I mean, Ring of Honor, was more of a like sports oriented, where they were shaking in the hands and the honor system and all that stuff. I think ECW could have survived because when you have the WWE machine behind you and you're given this different alternative product and you can have sponsorships and stuff like that, that takes a little bit off the burden of, you can put that sponsorship towards, payroll and stuff like that. And so I think it could have survived. They could have grown their own brand. I mean, look, NXT started at, just at Full Sail. Mm-hmm. And then, before the shutdown, the pandemic, they ran their own independent event in a legit arena that wasn't piggybacking off another WWE event.
Right.
All the, takeovers were their, WrestleMania weekend or this pay-per-view weekend. And it was like part of a weekend. They did their first one-off event in I want to say in Bridgeport, Connecticut or something like that. And they drew very well on their own in an arena. So if they had done that with ECW when they brought it back in 2006, granted they didn't have the network back then.
Sure. And I think that's a big part of NXT's success and longevity.
But to go back to the point, there was talks of Shane McMahon wanting to buy ECW for himself and make it a web only show, where if you're running strictly on the internet, you might have a little bit less governor, but you can still have the sponsorships and stuff like that. So, you could have had a video on demand show, and called it ECW, and you could have had a bigger reach because, it's not limited to the United States. People in Japan can watch it, people in England can watch it, and all this stuff. And then you sell the merch. There's opportunity there. It's just sometimes you don't know what you have. They definitely. I think they were too focused on what ECW was, as opposed to where it was going. And it was ECW was changing. There's a lot of talent that were showing up backstage that were going to be starting soon, with ECW, like the Backseat Boys, Brent Acid and Johnny Cashmere. They were coming to shows. They were slated to start and stuff like that. There's other indie talent. They tried to get Reckless Youth in there. I don't know what happened with that, but they were going to, they could have done what Ring of Honor did. And, I think it could have been successful.
It really is amazing to think of what could have been. My last question for you, and then we'll get back.
Amazing and sad.
Yeah, it is. It is, especially when you talk about like Trent Acid and like it would have. Reckless Youth was always supposed to be this big breakout star, and I feel like maybe that could have happened had he had that opportunity, that platform. But my other question for you was, you were talking before about the shift into the Attitude Era from WWE. Had WWE never done that, had WWE stayed the course of, the new generation and all, right? And they're just doing that. And WCW, we look at that and we go, okay, the WCW would have killed them in the ratings and that's it. And WCW would have won and blah, 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 all that stuff, right? But we also know that while WCW is winning in those ratings and kicking WWF's ass, and WWF is going out of business because they're not getting the quote unquote attitude.
Right. Get it?
We know that WCW is eventually going to implode, having nothing even to do with storylines. We know the AOL Time Warner situation and all of that. My question to you is, had WWF never gone with the attitude adjustment, so to speak, do you think ECW could have moved up to being at least an equal number 2? Do you think ECW could have become a bigger thing because that attitude that everyone was looking for, that was there, as you talked about before, that was there before it was in the WWF. That was there in ECW. Before it was in the NWO. You know, that was there in ECW. Do you think ECW could have reached that point, or do you think ECW was too far to the extreme that it never would have been able to reach that mainstream level?
Dude, I know Eric Bischoff laughs this off and gives all his reasons why ECW wasn't the number 2 promotion towards the end, but to me, they were the number 2. ECW was the number 2 promotion before. I mean, you know, WCW had a couple hot years when they're making money hand over fist, but then once you get into the contracts and the ratings go down, the attendance goes down, you start hemorrhaging money. You know, and ECW in some towns, ECW was running better, had better attendance than WCW shows, house shows, and stuff like that. Because our stars showed up for the main events, whereas, WCW guys had creative control and decided, I don't want to do the house show loop,
right?
Which Jeff Jarrett just recently talked about on his podcast, where some guys didn't show up, and he's working a handicap match versus Stevie Ray, which. It was never an angle that was pushed on TV, so why have a specialty match? So, but I digress. It's hard to say because, ECW was doing great things, especially around 96, 97, 98. Those were the strongest years. But, also, they were kind of like, they kind of needed that WWE vibe to help, for that exposure. WWE did help ECW in a way where we got to promote Barely Legal. We got to bring in some of their talent, doing talent exchanges and stuff like that. We got to put our guys, we got to put Rob Van Dam on their TV.
Yep.
It furthered our storylines and stuff like that. It was almost like ECW and WWE were,
symbiotic.
Necessary. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Because Paul Heyman, I mean, he grew up in WWE. Between being a teenage photographer at ringside, then going off to becoming a manager, and then coming back and stuff like that. Paul Heyman worked for Vince Sr. He worked for and then now he's working for Vince Jr. and stuff like that. So, had they not done the attitude adjustment, ECW probably could have been an easy number 2. I think that, and again, I thought they were number 2 towards the end anyway.
But it is interesting what you're saying, because had they not done the attitude adjustment, ECW could have taken that spot. But had they not done that, they wouldn't have been the proper platform for Rob Van Dam and for the ECW invasion of Raw and whatnot, which is what put ECW on that national, map there. So it's really interesting. It's just fun. As you were answering that first question, I just had all these thoughts, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do a show with the Blue Meanie. I can just ask them. So, but let's go to a Patreon member, Vanessa Bello. Did Meanie ever work alongside Louis Spicolli, a.k.a. Rad Radford?
I think I had one match with him and Jim Thorpe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was Louis Spicolli and Mikey Whipper versus me and Stevie. I wish I could remember that match a little bit better because it was just a one-off match. I wish I could have done. Remember it. I wish I could have been a little bit less green, in that match. But I got to travel with Louis. Louis, like I've said before, one of the most beloved guys in the ECW locker room. I mean, I'm sure he could be a little bit of a pest to some people, but in a good way and not in a bad way, where he didn't have that go away. He was just like, oh my God, Louis, please stop talking. Please stop singing Milli Vanilli to me. I remember me, Stevie, and Louis driving upstate New York. It was like the Buffalo Rochester loop, and Louis singing, "Girl, I'm gonna miss you," and we just like singing all the cheesy songs. And like my favorite Louis Piccoli memory, ECW Trent, New Jersey, at the I want to say the CYO, and I was in the restroom and I did my business. I'm washing my hands and I'm hearing like this commotion in the next room, and I walk in and Louis Piccoli and Beulah McGillicuddy are singing "Hot Summer Nights" from the movie Grease. And Louis singing John Travolta's part and Beulah singing Olivia Newton-John's part. And the locker room is doing the, tell me more, tell me more. It's like,
that's awesome.
Like if you put that in the movie, you're like, oh, that's so corny. That would never happen. But it happened,
That's awesome.
Louis was great. And he was respected enough that like his whole time in ECW was paid by Sabu.
Really?
Sabu and Louis were on a tour of Japan, and Sabu tried to rib Louis by telling the bus driver that Louis is peeing out the window or throwing pee out the window, which he wasn't. So Louis got heat and they fired Louis. The promotion in Japan fired Louis.
Oh wow!
So Sabu was devastated that he got this guy fired. So he talked Paul into hiring Louis. And Paul wasn't too sure about it. And he's like, I'll pay for him. So, Sabu would get his pay and then give Louis some cash, give, part of his paycheck to, work in ECW. Yeah.
I never knew that.
If Louis had been anybody else, that wouldn't have happened, but, the respect that people had for Louis, that's just respect people had for Louis.
Wow.
And I still talk to his sister to this day. I'm trying to help them with certain things. They want to do certain things for Louis' legacy. And they're bouncing, his sister bounced a couple ideas off me, and I'm trying to help them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things, people still love Louis to this day. I don't think he's ever had an action figure or a T-shirt or a current shirt. So we'll see I'm not promising anything, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, that's thinking about him as like an action figure or something. That would be great. He
absolutely,
because the people who were watching him at that time, everybody remembers him so fondly, but as time goes on, he never really had the opportunity to make it big enough that he's kind of stood the test of time for people who maybe weren't around at the time, Yeah. So that'd be great.
That's the shame of it. A lot of people, like you said, are lost to time. Mm-hmm. And you think of, how many people saw him in his day, and then unfortunately he passes away. But so many other wrestlers come out that sometimes people get pushed back a little bit in the old brain cells, sometimes, the memory fades away of how good that person was, but Louis was great in the ring and in the locker room.
Speaking of the locker room, you mentioned, Vanessa says, "Hey, Cello Toys." You mentioned him singing "Summer Nights" in the locker room. That leads me to Andy Slichter has a question.
Slichter!
What are Meanie's top songs he would like to see himself vibe to on @Blue Meanie Vibes? Which, by the way, go follow @Blue Meanie Vibes, a complete and utter ripoff of the @Taz Vibes, but perfect.
Oh my God. And that was thanks through people being able to watch us on the Patreon. And that was just me being a goof. I had like a song going on in my head. And like afterwards, you're like, what song did you have in your head? I was like, I don't know. It was a song I just made up. sometimes I just make up songs that are in my head. It's like, well, it would have been great if I learned how to fucking play an instrument. But like, I'll like get a song stuck in my head and it just morphs into this other total different song that it wasn't. It's like, man, I could have been a great plagiarist. But dude, anything. Get me some yacht rock, you know.
The most recent. Most recent one yeah.
I mean, you could do my ECW theme. Let me clear my throat by DJ Cool. Somebody they already did the BWO theme, but you could do Bop. You could do anything.
Most recent one is the NWO theme. Was up there as we're recording this to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the NWO. We also have your WWF theme, and then on 4th of July was Real American by Rick Derringer, the Hulk Hogan theme. So some really fun things over there. Go give at Blue Meanie Vibes a follow.
That was very, very flattering. Very flattering. Very
cool. Let's see what else we have over here. More questions. Hey, here's a fun one. Chris at ChrisWD 2009. What is the one biggest criticism Josh and the Blue Meanie have of AEW?
First of all, AEW, I respect them. I'm glad they exist. I guess my one big disappointment, I'll say disappointment with AEW, is the fact that we were told it's going to be sports based. There's going to be win and loss records, which I thought was intriguing. Mm-hmm. But I thought we were going to get American New Japan, and there's a lot. There's a few things I wish they would do a little bit better. And what do I know? I was the guy from ECW. But, I wish they wouldn't bury the refs as much, especially when it comes to, tag matches and blatantly cheating right in front of the official and stuff like that, When you do stuff like that, when you're blatantly cheating in front of the referee, you're not getting heat. All the heat is going to the referee for not admonishing you, But that's the one thing, I wish they would, would give us what they promised us. Sports based, where the rules are applied, rules are enforced. Mm-hmm. Okay, do the if you want to do the want to be different, do the 20 count instead of 10 count. You could do so many different things. Make it look more like a shoot, Still have characters. They could have been like the American pro wrestling equivalent of UFC.
Sure.
And you don't have to go totally straight laced. I mean, UFC has their own version of characters. Look at the Diaz brothers, Jesus Christ. They just ooze charisma. Look at, Conor McGregor. Look at he oozes charisma. But when he goes in that cage, it's just like it's on. You can have the characters, but once that bell rings, things get serious.
Did you see it was on Dynamite a few weeks back, the Jake Hager versus Wardlow in the Octagon-esque,
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I watched that and I watched it, maybe I saw it like a week after it had aired, and I thought to myself, I didn't think this is the future of pro wrestling. I thought this is the future of the UFC. Although I believe Al Snow told me a long time ago, and shout out to Al, he's in the green room, but Al Snow,
we'll get to him.
Al Snow told me a long time ago that he truly believes that the UFC is a work. Not all of it, right, but the undercard and the things that it's a work. And I'm looking at this match with Wardlow and Jake Hager, and I'm looking at them going, A, it definitely could be a work. B, if it's not a work, it should be. It absolutely should be. And that's what happened. Right. That was pro wrestling. Pro wrestling originally it was wrestling, and then they're just like, oh, if we work this, we can make some money off of this.
We can make money and last longer.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't know what the fucking term work means.
Yeah.
People think it's me and you working out spots and stuff like that. And boxing for years, boxing was a work in the way where they would purposely, mismatch opponents. Mm-hmm. They called them tomato cans. Instead of, calling them jobbers, they call them tomato cans. You put in these guys with little experience and with people are going to demolish them. And you pad that person's record to where he's like 20-0.
Yep.
Nobody's going to, maybe a wrestling fan will go, oh, let me go through each individual match. Yeah. But a boxing fan's not going to go, oh, let me go through each individual match. They're like, oh, this guy's 20-0. He must be good, right? Not knowing that the guy had to beat up a bunch of, right. Tomato cans. So, I mean, with UFC and MMA, I know there's shows out there that are MMA shows being promoted as MMA shows. And all the matches are work. I know there are. So I know the people running them.
Yeah.
But it can be done. So I don't know where we were talking about this. We were talking about AEW and stuff like that, but
no, it's maybe
I wish AEW would kind of be like more like UFC, not Octagon stuff like that, but have real life characters that are believable, like guys you would see walk down the street and I believe that guy, but and they could be as silly as they want, but once that bell rings, like the it's the Diaz brothers, mm-hmm. right? In the UFC.
I think so, yeah.
They clown around, they do run-ins on other people's press conferences, throw water bottles, all this stuff. But then once that cage door shuts, it's all on, man. It's on like a motherfucker, So I wish AEW do that.
So to answer my answer to Chris's question, it was Chris. My answer to Chris's question would be my one criticism from the very beginning of AEW, especially with Dynamite, is they think they cater too much to their diehards, in the sense that, and I'm not talking about in style, but in the sense that in the beginning, I wasn't really like, I knew who Kenny Omega was, of course. I'd seen some of his big matches, but I didn't really know much about him. And there's a lot of talent there that'll come in and it'll be like, oh, they've been wrestling forever and whatever. I always felt like they needed the vignettes. They needed the sit-down interviews with a Tony Schiavone or a Jim Ross to educate us. Those of us who have no idea what is going on in Japan in the wrestling industry, to educate us as to why. Because I felt like Kenny Omega came in. Kenny Omega is the best wrestler in the world. Well, now they've done a great job with his character, with fleshing it out and letting people know, who he is as a heel and everything. But in the beginning, it was like Kenny Omega is the best wrestler in the world, and I'm like, okay, why? Like, I know I've heard that, but convince me. Tell me why he's the best wrestler in the world. Right. That would have been my only criticism.
I love what they did, to put him over. I love what they did in the beginning, like with the promos, the vignettes they did on Sammy Guevara. Mm-hmm. They're showing him working out, jumping rope on the roof of a building with a drone camera flying over, and
they did They did a lot for a lot of guys. It was, but like a Sammy Guevara was, I think they saw him as like really new. It was the more established, like a Kenny Omega, where they were just like, everybody knows Kenny Omega. Everybody knows the Young Bucks. Everybody, we don't, not to burst their bubble, but we all know Dustin Rhodes. We don't need a promo on him. We all, we know who he is.
Dude, when they first came out, there's billboards all over the place. There's several in Philly, but you don't put John Moxley on a billboard?
Yeah.
John Moxley, fresh off WWE TV, he's not on the billboard? Okay, Cody and Dustin makes perfect sense.
Right.
Why are you putting these, established guys from WWE on your billboard to say, hey, this is where they're at now, kind of thing. You know, no offense to Sammy Guevara. They had a billboard with Sammy Guevara on the billboard, but I didn't even know it was Sammy Guevara because he was getting kicked in the face.
Yeah.
It just looked like it looked like clip art. You know, it just looked like a clip art of a random guy getting kicked. I didn't know it was Sammy Guevara until he was like, oh, not cool. I was like, oh shit, that's Sammy. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Put the photo of the guy on the billboard, his name, you know, AEW on TNT, stuff like that.
You ever notice WWE when they have the big posters, it doesn't matter if it's John Cena, Randy Orton, any of their big stars, The Undertaker, it always says their name right next to them. In like a small, on all the pay-per-view posters, always says their name next to them. And I've always looked at it going like, that's not for us. That's for the person looking at it who goes like, oh, I haven't watched wrestling in 20 years. Wonder who this guy is.
Let me look him up.
Yep. Because you can't look him up by going Google guy on wrestling poster. You know, like once you see, this guy looks interesting. Oh, his name's Randy Orton. Let me Google him. So
yeah. Randall Keith Orton.
Yeah, and then you know all about him. He hears voices in his head. Edgar Allan Lovecraft writes, if you had to fight any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Emmanuel Lewis. Because I would stand a chance. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. Who would I? Who annoyed me that I would want to punch him in the fucking face? So that's the only reason why I ever want to.
I wouldn't mind kicking Hitler's ass if that was an opportunity, you know?
Yeah, I would definitely love to fucking punch him in the fucking throat.
Hey, there are plenty of people today. We can go back in time like a year. If you call that history, I could find some people I'd like to beat the shit out of.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, I never leave my house thinking, oh, I'm going to kick somebody's ass today. I think about my day. Hey, what can I get home as quick as fucking possible? Let me go out, do my shit, and get the fuck back home. Great question, but you know, maybe the guy who honked right as the light turned green. I don't know. That's the only time if there's like a that's why I can never do one of those driving shows where they have the camera in the car, because you would have to beep it every 20 seconds.
Yeah, right.
You
know? Going through seeing some of our old ones here, but before we do that, let's jump over. We've got some great things from Anthony Camarada here. Anthony writes, I'm fascinated by the stories Meanie has shared of Richie Posner, the prop guy. Richie from Magic.
Yeah.
Can we get another Richie Posner story?
Shit, I gotta remember what I told.
Start telling, and I'll see if it jogs my memory. I'll let you know. We'll cut you off. Or hey, we have new listeners all the time, right? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he was just great. I remember we had to do, it was a promo where I was Blue Meanie with Goldust. You know, we already done BlueDust, and I wasn't feuding with Goldust anymore, so I was teaming with him and Ryan Shamrock. But my character was, you know, sad that like Ryan was getting all the attention and I wasn't. So we were doing this like vignette or segment where next coming up on Raw, Goldust with Blue Meanie and Ryan Shamrock. So I went up to Richie. I was like, I got to do this thing where I got to look like I'm crying. Can you make me like a handkerchief where it just shoots water? And you just see his wheels turning. And he goes, let me come back, you know? And Richie he came back. He said, I think I got something. And I don't know how he has this stuff on him at all times, but he found like this tubing with the eyedropper thing that you squeeze, and he placed it into the handkerchief. So we're doing a thing, and you know, Goldust is sitting on the couch, Ryan Shamrock's on the lap, and I'm sitting on the floor crying, going, and I'm hitting the thing, and water's going psh, 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 shooting out. Like, he would just come up with that off the top of his head. You know, there would be times where, you know, he helped design the BWO big wheels when we're doing the Great American Bash. You know, he painted them blue. put the stickers on there, and which I took some of the stickers and put on my wrist tape. But then there was times where I would come, like we did Raw. No, we were doing Smack. I came back for SmackDown. He comes up to me, "Hey, we got this great idea. You're gonna give somebody a blue bath," and then of course they rewrite TV, and
sure,
I'm written off the show. Now, I went from being in the segment to being written off the show.
Yeah.
But like he would always do stuff. He would. I want to say he was the guy who helped put together the Bigelow Taz ring, but I'm not 100% on that. But he just did so much different stuff. He made so many different cameos. Not on the phone, like, "Hey, this is Richie Posner. Happy birthday, Blue Meanie."
He needs to get on Cameo now.
I should give him a call, see if he wants to come on the podcast.
Oh, Meanie. That would be amazing.
Yeah, dude, he was like the character at any movie. He always, he'd be he would have his own little area called Magic. He would be there with his Hawaiian shirt on, like a typical mad genius. You see him like looking through drawers and noodling through stuff, and it's kind of like the movie Real Genius with Val Kilmer and stuff like that.
Real Genius meets MacGyver.
Richie Posner was the real life MacGyver. Just, "Hey, Richie, I need this, that, and the other thing." All right. Abracadabra, alakazam. And he would make it happen,
Yeah, let's try and get him on here.
I can reach out to him.
That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. He's again, there's so many unsung heroes in the wrestling business. He's definitely one of them. Yeah,
our Patreon members are that would be amazing. We definitely, I think everybody would love that.
They just put him over on the Lost Treasure show. Mick Foley said, when they were looking for one of his Mr. Saccos, he goes, "That's a Richie Posner original."
Yeah, there were the Richie Posner ones and then the Foley ones, right?
Yep. Oh, I'll have to. Hopefully, he still has the same number. I'll just shoot him a text.
Anthony also asked, did you see the Briscoe brothers fight on the farm match?
I wish. I'll get to it.
I didn't see that either.
I don't know if that was on their YouTube or was it on their actual TV show.
I think it was on their TV, I think.
Okay. Which I'm sure I could catch on FITE TV because they have all the Ring of Honor episodes on there.
Definitely.
I watch wrestling, but it's not at the same pace as everybody else because I'm a cord cutter and stuff like that. So,
but also there's a lot of wrestling.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. Like I don't know about you, but I don't have 3 hours in a night to sit and watch. So you're talking about a show right off the bat. Raw is 3 hours long. I can't get through Raw in one night. Honestly, I don't even try at this point, but
I used to watch the condensed version on Hulu. They would do it like a 90-minute version of it.
Yep.
And even that, I was like, if I want to catch up on WWE, I'll go. Well, I don't know if they still even do it anymore. This weekend, WWE.
Yep.
And they give you the storylines in like a half hour.
Yeah.
Give me the Cliff Notes.
Oh man, there's a lot of wrestling out there and a lot of great wrestling out there. I don't mean that. Awesome. Yeah, I don't mean that in a disparaging way. But hey, you whatever your favorite food is, if your favorite restaurant's got an endless menu of all things you want to eat, well, listen, there's only so much you can eat in one sitting, right? So might all be great, but it doesn't mean you're going to necessarily get to that tiramisu,
dude, young Brian Heffron would be envious of the amount of wrestling and the access to it that there is today. I grew up in Atlantic City. Now there seems to be a show in Atlantic City every week.
Right.
I could have just walked down the boardwalk, once a week and watched wrestling in person instead of having to travel to Philly all the time.
You make such a good point about the availability, like how easy it is to access it. Like I can't. Someone posted on social media the other day, did you ever watch a WWF pay-per-view like this? And it was like the scrambled the cable, like where you could hear it perfectly, but it was scrambled. And occasionally it would like accidentally get caught in a way where you're like, wow, I'm seeing half the screen here. And of course, like, we all did.
Hit the AB button on the remote.
Yep. We're all watching that. And then the freaking blue screen came, when we all got the cable boxes that turned that channel into just blue with a thing that said, to order, call whatever. And you're like, but yeah, man, it was, it's not to give a whole kids these days, man, they don't understand how lucky they are, how easy they have it. Just, I didn't get to watch this. I'll check it out on YouTube. Dude, I couldn't get a cable box. I was at the shore at my grandparents' place, and I couldn't get a cable box. We drove around looking for one for me to watch SummerSlam 94. And I didn't see SummerSlam 94 in a non-static way until the network came out. Because that's just what it was. It was just, I watched it on static.
SummerSlam 94, was that in Pittsburgh? Or was that 95?
I want to say 95 was in Pittsburgh. I don't know. But I will say 94 was, I remember it was Razor Ramon versus Ted DiBiase in the opening match. It was DiBiase's last match in WWF. And I remember, just trying to watch this match, and it was I want to say this was like Lex Luger, Yokozuna.
I'll be your hero.
Beautiful.
I went to SummerSlam 95.
Really?
That was the same weekend I wrestled Cactus Jack out in Pittsburgh area.
Oh wow! Well, who was wrestling on 95? Do you remember?
It was the Shawn Michaels Razor ladder match again.
Right. Okay, yeah. So that was the following. Yeah, that was 95.
And I want to say Isaac Yankem, Bret Hart, maybe. But I remember the ladder match. And I want to say Hakushi was on that. I don't know. I have to revisit it.
Talk about storyline. I'm sorry, you were saying.
No. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, talk about the important. You said Isaac Yankem versus Bret Hart. My first thought was like, God, what an awful time. And then you look at it and you go, but that's two Hall of Famers. That's two of the biggest stars in WWF history or WWE history in Kane and Bret Hart. What a difference a character makes, right? Because while it's hard to imagine from a timeline, Bret Hart versus Kane, just because of, where they were. And I think Bret left the month after Kane debuted, if I'm correct on that. But you look at it and you think to yourself, that's almost like a dream match, right? That Kane would wrestle Bret Hart. And there it happened at SummerSlam. And it's, instead, it's a beacon of how bad WWF was at the time. So it's really kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm pontificating, but it kind of.
No, I mean, I'm right there with you,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. I got to go to that. That was the weekend I wrestled. It was Steel City Wrestling in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. It was myself and Rick Matrix versus Crippler Ray Roberts and Cactus Jack. Literally, we were his Cactus Jack's first match after that death match in Japan. So his arm was all wrapped and still freshly burnt and smelling. You still smell the burnt flesh and stuff like that. But and then we had that show, and then the next day we drove down to Pittsburgh, me and a couple of the guys from our school, and we went to SummerSlam. And then after SummerSlam, I drove straight back to Atlantic City.
Wow.
With a bruised tailbone.
From SummerSlam or from the match before?
We were having a match. I put Crippler Ray Roberts on the table. I went to do a leg drop from the apron through the table to the floor. And this ring was way higher than the normal ring. You think of, most rings where you can hop up and put a knee. You had to hop on this one. You had to hop up, hope to grab a rope and pull yourself up.
Jeez.
I had to move. I went through the table, hit the gym floor with my tailbone, and it was just like, oh. And then during that match, Cactus hits me with a toy pool table over the top of the head, and I had to like play dead for a little bit there. Not play dead. I was like, the promoter Norm Connors, who was managing us, I was like, dude, I am fucked up, and hard weighed. So I was just like, take a powder.
Hard weighed from the pool table.
From the pool table, yeah.
Jeez.
But Cactus was great. We talked after that, and then like once I went to ECW, it might have been that later that year, in October. You think I wrestled him that SummerSlam '95, and then I'm in
2 months later.
A couple months later, he remembered me, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, very.
Last question here.
Sure.
Vanessa Bello writes, has Meanie seen the John McPhee antivirus guru documentary yet? It's called Gringo, The Dangerous Life of John McPhee. That's a rabbit hole all on its own. Have you seen it?
I've seen it, and he apparently killed a guy and got away with it. If I'm thinking of the right story.
Oh.
I hope that's it, because I've watched a lot of documentaries, but the John McAfee story. I mean, he just recently passed away.
So I MCFEE.
McAfee.
So I was saying McPhee, but I don't know. It could be McAfee. I don't know.
Yeah, because he came up. He's the antivirus guy.
Okay.
He created McAfee antivirus, all that stuff, and. He was about to be extradited back to the United States on securities fraud.
Yeah, it's McAfee antivirus, right?
That's him, yeah.
Okay, I think it's one of those things where everybody says it slightly differently because you only read it, you don't hear it.
Yeah. Right.
Or I just say it wrong.
Yeah, but I saw that documentary. I need to watch it again, especially now with, he basically killed himself because he didn't want to be extradited back to the United States, but. What an interesting guy. And with that, there's a lot of interviews that are popping up on YouTube and stuff like that. And so interesting. But I've watched it. I need to watch it again. Oh. I literally watch way too many documentaries. So sometimes some documentaries blend into each other where I'm giving the McAfee one where he did this thing, and it was actually this other one I had seen. So I definitely seen it.
Yeah, that definitely happens with like TV shows. Like if you watch too many medical dramas, at one point you're like, well, whatever happened to this so-and-so? You're like, oh, that's not this show. That's not.
Yeah, you're thinking of ER, Chicago or Grey's Anatomy. Yeah. How many fucking shows from Chicago do we need?
There's a lot. There's Chicago, the whole Chicago stuff that Cole Cabana's constantly popping up on, or maybe once, but he.
Yeah. Chicago Hope, Chicago PD, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, Chicago Med. There was another
they got the
one.
Whole yeah. Chicago.
Yeah. Where it just takes place in Chicago and they just walk around Chicago. And that's it.
Yeah.
Executive producer Dick Wolf.
Do you think when he went to grade school, he had to put Wolf Dick on all his test papers?
Man, that is a guy, you talk about overachieving. You start with that name, Dick Wolf, and you're just like,
oh,
yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Well, hey, speaking of your Dick Wolf, let's talk a little bit about Manscaped.com. That's right, Manscaped. They are our sponsor, and we want to thank them so much for sponsoring us. Meanie, talk a little bit about Manscaped while I bring up the Manscaped read.
Dude, Manscaped.com is the end-all, be-all for men's grooming from head to toe. I could speak, especially with me using the ear and nose trimmer. I'm getting to that age where I gotta pay attention so I don't turn into Grandpa Munster or Ernest Borgnine over here with with the Manscaped ear and nose hair trimmer, I can look presentable. You know, a lot of times, you get get into your 40s and your nose hairs are getting a little bit too long. You're getting a little bit of hair on you're getting hair in places you don't want hair. You know, you're losing it in the places you want it, and you're getting it in the places you don't. So, but thanks to Manscaped, you can take care of your ears, your nose. I always say this. I'm a big proponent of their foot duster. They have a foot spray. I love my mom to death. Not only was I blessed with her good hair, I was blessed with her bad feet. So every night, before Meanie goes to bed, I take a nice hot shower and I get the Manscaped foot spray, which has green tea in it and other essential nutrients for your feet. Which I'm not a big foot fan, but I got to take care of mine, man, because you don't care. You got to take care of the things that help you get through the day. Take care of your feet. So I'm definitely using the foot spray, the nose and ear hair trimmer, and like you're about to say, man, there's so many different things Manscaped does for the be all end all for all your men's grooming needs.
Yeah, listen, the Olympics, Euros, baseball, major championships and concerts are all in this summer. You know what isn't? You know what isn't? A wild and hairy bush. Tame your pubes with help from our friends at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Their 4th generation performance package includes the brand new Lawnmower 4.0. If an athlete treats their body like royalty, why not treat your pubes like Olympic gold? Fellas, do right by your balls and join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com with the promo code Meanie20. The world is starting to open, and the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is here to help you get ready. Inside, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer that Meanie's talked about, the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver Toner, plus 2 free gifts, Performance Boxer Briefs and the Shed Travel Bag. And those boxers are nothing to sneeze at. They're fantastic. Talk about a world-class dismount into a post-quarantine world. This package is the perfect package for your package and peak performance in whatever sport you desire. The brand new Lawnmower 4.0 is here to take the podium. This 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch, can engage a travel lock, gives you the ability to turn the 4,000K LED spotlight on and off when you need for a more precise shave. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Michael Phelps is drooling just thinking about the possibilities. The package, man, there's a lot to read. The package also comes with the Weed Whacker. Chop your worst weeds up top in both your nose and ear. This tool is a lock to take home gold in the biathlon. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. After trimming your pubes, show them some sportsmanship with Manscaped's liquid formulations. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner are the key to feeling victorious this year. Manscaped also threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Meanie20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Meanie20 at manscaped.com. Achieve pubic glory this year with Manscaped. We thank them so much for sending these amazing reads over.
Thank you for taking care of the podcast who looks to take care of our pod squad.
Yes. Take care of your balls. That's pretty much what we're saying here. Yeah, and that's about it for us here. This was a fun Ask Meanie. Lots of great questions. I love the Ask Meanie portion. of this.
It really is my favorite part of the show. I mean, I love just talking about things to bounce off the top of my head. But thanks to our Pod Squad, they asked the questions to jar a lot of memories that I have forgotten about. And I'm very appreciative of our Pod Squad for asking those questions.
Anything else you would like to say before we wrap up here? I'll do all my plug skis, but you, Meanie, have a personal appearance coming up this weekend.
Yeah, man. Think back to all the legendary moments that happened in WWE and WWF, back in the early 80s. And they happened at the legendary Hamburg Fieldhouse. So this Saturday, July 24th, coming up at the historic Hamburg Fieldhouse from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., I will be at the Legends of Hamburg convention. I'll be sharing a table with myself and the ECW hardcore icon, the Sandman. So between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., come see me and the Sandman. Go to legendsofhamburg.com for more information. But it's going to be an amazing event. Pod Squads, come say hello. So I'm excited. I'll be excited to see all of you. Legendsofhamburg.com.
Awesome. And I mentioned this last week too, that on that same day I'm going to be at the Showboat in New Jersey doing a Fight and Focus live right before GCW Homecoming. So if any of you Pod Squad members are going to that show, come say hello. I'll be the one who looks like me. But it'd be great to see you because I'm jealous because Meanie gets out there, gets to meet everybody. I want to feel the love too. But in the meantime, do us a favor and follow us on social media at Mind of the Meanie across the board, across all platforms, and follow us as individuals as well. He's at Blue Meanie BWO. I'm at So Says Shernoff. Check out some of the great shirts over at ProWrestlingTees.com/Mind of the Meanie. Also, great shirts over at ProWrestlingTees.com/Blue Meanie. And there's also some pretty damn good ones over at ProWrestlingTees.com/So Says Shernoff. I hope that all of you will go subscribe to YouTube.com/Mind of the Meanie. Do me a favor if you're in the mood to subscribe right now, whenever you're done. You can pause this for just a second and subscribe to So Says Shernoff podcast there. Just put out some cool stuff from my Fight and Focus with Ring of Honor. We're going to have the audio for that and a lot of those cool things. So it's definitely a different podcast than the Mind of the Meanie. We're just sharing some fun interviews over there. So, add that to your rotation. Some of them are like 5 minutes, some of them are 30 minutes, but it's a lot of fun. So check that out. Cameo.com/Blue Meanie BWO. If you want Meanie to wish you a happy birthday, Merry Christmas, a belated 4th of July, whatever it is that you want. And I'm there too, Cameo.com/So Says Shernoff. Meanie, what did I miss? Anything?
Go and support our friends over at Collar and Elbow. Go to collarandelbowbrand.com.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Go to collarandelbow.com, collarandelbowbrand.com. Use promo code Meanie and save yourself 10% on some great quality shirts over there. Rod Hicks and Al Snow, who oh my God, we forgot.
That was my son of a bitch. I didn't mean to cut you off with it, but I just as soon as you said it.
So sorry.
Yeah, Al.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Meanie, we just don't have the time. But you know what? Hey, next week's a big one. That's episode 70 next week.
That's an even number. That's an even number.
That's an even number, and I think episode 70, that's the one for Al Snow. I think.
Yeah.
That's the one for Al.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's not like we just left him in there by himself. There's plenty of, continental catering, just like donuts and bagels and coffee in there. He'll be all right.
There's a lot in the green room.
Yeah.
There's a lot over there.
Can we call it the room? But,
it should be the blue room. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. All right. From now on, Al Snow stays in the blue room.
Yes.
Very nice. And all of you.
Sorry, Al.
We really are. Al, we apologize. Yeah, Meanie, well, I guess that's it. This was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to be back next week to talk about whatever major event took place in the last 2 weeks.
If the planet's around by then, we don't know.
Seriously. But until then, we hope everybody has a wonderful July, and we will see you next Monday and every Monday for another trip into the mind of the Meanie.
Blue World Order. The world of MLW radio never stops.